American football is back. College football began last weekend, and this weekend kicks off the start of the NFL season. So very exciting times if you're into your American football. But as always here at Trademate Sports, we are more focused on the betting side of things. So today I'm going to go through how the Trademate Sports software has been performing historically with American football overall and in certain betting markets, and then go through how you can approach your betting on American football with Trademate Sports, and just some quick tips towards the end about the actual market itself and how you can maybe take it a step further and become more advanced in your American football betting. But before I get into it all, just a quick disclaimer on this video and all the videos on our channel. I or no one else on this channel is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your sports betting. There is a risk of losing money when sports betting, and the choices you make with your money is completely up to you. So please be responsible.
It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
So I'm just going to share my screen now and show you guys how Trademate users have been performing on American football, and run some simulations on our big data tool, which is the historical trades, all the trades that Trademate users have placed over time on American football. Okay, so taking a look at my screen here, we're filtering for American football. We're going to look at all odds types, all the markets, odds range 1 to 4 just to keep it simple. Edges, anything over 1.5% edge. And 0 to 8 hours before kickoff. This is kind of a very general way of looking at things, but it should just give us a very general overview where overperforming in or underperforming in certain betting markets. Looking at the results on my screen now, and you'll see there's a nice little ROI here of 1.9%. That's a flat ROI, so that will actually become bigger. It's expected to get bigger if you use Kelly criterion staking. This is just all flat staking with $1 per unit size, and average closing edge of 3.2%, which is great. 10,000 trades, huge sample size there, sorry. So yeah, it all looks great, but the thing is here is that we have to go a lot deeper than this. We need to start looking at different betting markets. Maybe you want to look at hours before kickoff, all these kind of things, and it'll give you a better idea of exactly how Trademate are performing in these markets. So the first market we'll take a look at is MONEYLINE. All right, so here are the results of the MONEYLINE simulation. Unfortunately, Trademate didn't want to work for me and load it for me, but luckily last week I ran the same simulation and took a screenshot. So here are the results here, and as you can see, we haven't performed that well on the MONEYLINE market, but you'll also notice that it's only a sample of 421 trades, which in sports betting terms is not a big sample at all. So I would basically look at these results and think, okay, well, we've got a closing edge there, which is great. So we're heading in the direction we want to head in. The ROI is not great, obviously, but it's such a small sample size. So we can see that we do have an edge over the sharp bookies, but the sample size just hasn't done much for us here. So with this data, I would almost ignore everything I've shown you today because it's just a small sample. And yeah, let's move on to another betting market. All right, now we're going to have a look at how we're performing on the Asian handicap markets, which is, also referred to as the handicaps or the spreads, all that kind of stuff. So this is how it would look like when you're filtering for it in the big data tool. Just keep in mind too, I don't think I've mentioned this so far, recommended leagues is just the NFL. So if you're filtering non-recommended leagues, you're including every other American football league in the world, including college football too. So taking a look at the results here, you'll see that it's only a very small ROI, a flat ROI. So as I've stated before, it should get a little bit bigger once you incorporate Kelly betting into it. Big sample size, so you can kind of look at these results and think, yeah, that there's definitely some there's definitely some depth to them. There's definitely something you can take out of this because it's such a big sample size. You'll notice that we were actually doing quite well up until about the 2/3 of the way, and then our results have declined quite rapidly, and since then they've kind of stagnated. So that's just something interesting to keep in mind. Maybe something's happened in the NFL betting market when it comes to the handicaps around this point. Maybe that's representing a couple of seasons ago or something like that, and the market's changed a bit and our results have dropped. So that's definitely something to keep in mind there. But looking at other results, healthy closing edge, which is good. But yeah, it just shows that when we looked at the overall picture of things, it showed a it showed a 1.9% ROI. But when you go a bit deeper and you look into certain betting markets, it shows that we're actually not performing that well in spreads. So maybe that's something you want to think about removing from your game, or maybe taking a higher minimum edge, something like that, to adapt your game appropriately. All right, we'll take a look at the over-under markets now with the exact same presets as before. All right, here are the results for the over-under market. As you can see, the ROI has gone up again, and as I stated a million times before, you can make that bigger once you use Kelly criterion staking, hopefully. Big sample size, decent closing edge. So you'll notice that there's actually a little bit of correlation between the Asian handicap market and this market too, just because we've noticed around this kind of mark, that 6,000 trade mark, that we've actually lost a bit of money, but then at least this one's gone back up a bit. So yeah, maybe something's happened in the NFL betting market in the last couple of seasons where the market maybe isn't as efficient, or maybe it's the markets that we're tracking aren't as sharp as we'd hope them to be. So I'll discuss that later in the video, but this is definitely something to keep in mind going forward. But I guess the overall picture we're getting at here is we've looked at the three big betting markets. MONEYLINE, it's hard to judge because there was such a small sample size, but looking at the other markets like Asian handicap and over-under, maybe there's some definitive conclusions we can come to there. Looks like, over-under is a very profitable segment for us. Asian handicap, profitable, but not too profitable. So it might be something that you avoid with our software. So now that we've gone through the overall picture of NFL using Trademate and the three betting markets, or the three most important betting markets in the NFL, you guys can get a clearer picture of how we're performing in each segment. So now it's kind of on you guys, if you are using Trademate analytics, to go through and have a look at certain maybe odds ranges you want to take a look at. Maybe you want to look at certain hour ranges. There's lots of things, as you can see. Bookmakers too, as I've discussed with Bet365 in the past, they have been an anomaly with soccer results. So these are things that you can go and check out yourself. And see if there is a more profitable way. You can up the minimum edge too to certain things. But I guess this is just a way to give you guys that light bulb moment, kind of open up your eyes a bit more and look at and see that we shouldn't be looking at a sport with an overall picture, just including everything into one simulation. You should be breaking it up a bit more and looking at certain markets, because a lot of people might look at that first simulation, see a 1.9 ROI and say, okay, it's profitable, now I'm just going to go and bet every single market in the NFL. Now that might be a profitable way of doing things, but it's important to look deeper than that and become more advanced in your simulations and the way you're betting certain sports. Also, I did discuss before how looking into the graph, you could see that when it got to about 6,000 trades in both Asian handicap markets and in the over-under markets, that our results started to dip off. Now this is something that's really interesting, and my first thought of mine has been, having lots of American sports bettors on the podcast before, is they've said that BetCris has become the more efficient market to look at closing prices. They're the most efficient line, as they've offered the most liquidity to bet American football and baseball and all the American sports really. So if more sharper money, if there's more liquidity in a market, that means you're going to attract the bigger players and the smarter players. So that means that BetCris's lines, closing lines, are the most efficient in the business. So if you beat them, then you're going to be a profitable sports bettor long term. So how does that affect what I was talking about before with the declining graphs? Well, what it means is that we track Pinnacle Sports' odds, we don't track BetCris's odds. So I'm thinking that there could be potentially the reason why our results declined in both of those markets at that certain point was this limits change is kind of a recent thing. It's only happened in the last couple of years. So I'm thinking that as those limits have decreased on Pinnacle and the smarter players have maybe gone to BetCris, that the Pinnacle's lines are not as efficient as they used to be. So if you want an advanced tip when it comes to NFL betting or just any big American sports betting, is to look beyond just recommended tips that come up on Trademate Sports. Go beyond that and maybe have a look at BetCris's lines, see where they're at. If they're at something similar, then most likely you're all good to take that bet. But if BetCris are completely different, then maybe you should avoid that trade. It's just something advanced to keep in mind going forward with your betting on not only the NFL, but all big American sports. But thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell so you get a notification every time we post a video like this. See you guys next time. Cheers.